حي على الفلاح.
When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 35 years old, a very important incident happened in the history of Makkah. This was the year that the Quraysh decided to rebuild the structure of the Kaaba. Why did they decide to rebuild the structure of the Kaaba? It had become very weak, and they feared that it was so weak, the structure, that it may fall down. That's how weak the structure had become. Why did it become weak like that? Most of the historians say that it was due to a major flood that hit Mecca. Mecca is a valley, it's a low point that is surrounded by mountains. So whenever there's a big storm or whenever there's heavy rain, the rain water collects in Mecca. The structure of the Kaaba was not very strong at that time to begin with. So when this rain hit, it damaged the structure such to the extent that it was feared that it may fall down and collapse at any time. So this is what most of the historians say was the reason why the Quraysh decided to rebuild the Kaaba. There is another opinion that some of the historians have, that there was a woman who used to go around the Kaaba with scent, with bukhur. It's lighted on some coals, right? So if that thing falls down or if it hits something, it can be flammable. So some of the historians say that what happened is that the woman, she was going around the Kaaba with the bukhur to make the area smell good and fragrant, and something happened, an accident happened that caused the kiswa of the Kaaba, the covering, the cloth covering of the Kaaba, to catch on fire. And the fire spread and it actually damaged the structure of the Kaaba itself to such an extent that it was almost ready to collapse. Anyhow, whatever the reason is, whether it was the flood or whether it was the fire, the point is that the Quraysh realized that it's very important and very urgent that they need to rebuild the Kaaba before it actually collapses and before it falls down. But there were some problems. One of the problems was that the Kaaba was built with bricks of stone. And the Quraysh, their houses and their buildings that they had experience with building, it was built out of mud and clay. So they didn't really have experience in construction with stone. It's a different type of construction. Constructing with mud bricks and constructing with stone bricks, it's a totally different type of work. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam, when they built the Kaaba, they built it with bricks of stone. So the Quraysh, they didn't have experience with this. So that was one issue. Another issue was that they needed to raise enough money to complete this project. So how were they going to get the money to rebuild the Kaaba? So these were a couple of the issues. Also, they wanted to build a ceiling for the Kaaba out of wood, and they didn't have experience in building with wood either. So these were some of the issues that they needed to solve before they could actually embark on the rebuilding. So they discussed these issues and they discussed what to do about it. During this time, while they were still in these discussions, a ship came to the port of Jeddah. And Jeddah is not very far away from Mecca. And that ship beached on the port and it was destroyed. And that ship was built out of wood. So the ship was beyond repair. When it beached up on the shore, they couldn't repair it. So they decided to just sell the wood. So they came with that wood into Mecca trying to sell it. And the Quraysh said, oh, we need the wood. We need to build the ceiling for the Kaaba with wood. So they saw this as a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, Allah is making things easy for us. He is providing this wood for us and we need it. Another sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was making this project easy for them was that, as we mentioned before, the slave trade was a very common thing going on during this era. So during this time, when the Quraysh were contemplating how to rebuild the Kaaba, some slave traders came into Mecca with a slave, a Roman slave. And what was the occupation and the experience of this slave? He happened to be a construction worker whose expertise was in stone bricks. So they said, oh look, this is something we don't know how to do, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought this man to us to help us with this project. So they saw this as signs. The wood has come to us, the experience has come to us, so we should go on with this project, and we should now start to gather the funds to take care of this project. So they thought to themselves, and they discussed among themselves, the leaders of the Quraysh, how are we going to finance this? This is not going to be cheap. So they decided to open the doors for donations. But they made some very, very strict conditions on who could donate. They weren't just going to open this up for anyone. They said, the Kaaba, this is the house of Allah. This is the most honorable house of Allah. It is pure, and we will only accept pure money to rebuild it. It has to be 100% clean, the money. So they told the people of Mecca, yes, we're opening it up for donations. If you want to participate in this project, that's great, but the money has to be 100% clean. So they said, no money from prostitution. Anyone who deals with interest, we're not going to take any money from them. See, look, even in the Jahiliyyah, they knew that interest money is something that is impure. So any type of impure money, basically they said, we're not accepting it. And they opened the door for pure, clean donations. So what happens in the end? Through this exercise and through these conditions, the leaders of the Quraysh, they realized that most of the money of the businessmen of Mecca is dirty money, because they only are able to raise a very small amount. They didn't raise much money at all because of these conditions. So they realized, wow, man, most of the business of these people, it's a very dirty business. Their money is not clean. So this truth came to light due to this. So they collected a small amount of money, not enough for them to do the project fully. So now they realized that they're going to have a lot of expenses. You know, they're going to have to pay for the materials, they're going to have to pay for the labor, they're going to have to pay a lot of money, and they knew that what they had collected from the people was not enough. So again, they consult amongst themselves. And they say, okay, we only have two options here. Either we can cancel those conditions and allow for any type of money to come in and take their dirty money and do the project with that, or we can rebuild the Kaaba with the money that we have, but it's not going to be the same size. We're going to have to make it a little bit smaller in terms of the surface area. We're going to have to make it smaller because we don't have enough money to build it on the same surface. So they decided to keep the clean money because the Kaaba is too honorable to take dirty money, and we'll do whatever we can, and we will make the Kaaba, we'll build it on a smaller surface area than it is on now. So that is the decision that they took. The first step is that they need to break down the Kaaba. They can't rebuild it unless they break it down. Imagine a building that's about to collapse. Can you just repair it? No. You have to demolish it, and then you have to rebuild it again. So they got their tools ready, they got their axes, all these big leaders of the Quraysh, and they go to the wall of the Kaaba with their axes. And then they start saying to each other, okay, you start. So then the other guy says, no, you start. No, you start. So each one of them is too scared to start breaking the Kaaba. And why is that? We said this happened when Rasulullah ﷺ was 35 years old. So what happened 35 years earlier, the year Rasulullah ﷺ was born? And many of these people who are here on this day, on that day that they were deciding to rebuild the Kaaba, many of those leaders of the Quraysh, they witnessed, they were old enough to witness what happened 35 years ago. They saw it with their own eyes. the incident of Abraha, when Abraha came and tried to destroy the Kaaba. So each one of them is trying to get the other one to start, and nobody wants to do it. Finally, Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, he's one of the leaders of the Quraysh, and he is the father of Khalid ibn al-Walid. So Al-Walid says, look, Abraha's intention was to actually destroy the Kaaba. That's not what we're doing here. Our intention is not to destroy the house of Allah. Our intention is actually good. We want to rebuild it and make it strong so it doesn't fall down. So you can't compare what we're doing to what Abraha did. So Al-Walid, he tries to reason with them. And they're very happy actually. They said, okay, you do it, then you do it. You go ahead and start. So Al-Walid says, okay, no problem, I will start. And then before he starts, he says, Ya Allah, you know that our intention here is not to do anything bad. It's not to destroy your house. Our intention is good, that we want to rebuild it stronger. And then he starts, he hits it with his axe. And that is the side of the Kaaba between al-Rukn al-Yamani and al-Hajar al-Aswad. That wall of the Kaaba, that is where Al-Walid takes his axe and he starts to break it. And he breaks it and he breaks it and he breaks it, and it starts crumbling down. Then he tells the people, okay, I started. Now, come on, you guys join me. They said, no. First we have to wait to see if anything happens to you. If anything bad happens to you. Then, if nothing bad happens, then we will join you. You continue, you go ahead. The first day, only Al-Walid is the only one who's doing it. Nobody helps it. They're just sitting watching. Then the next day, Al-Walid comes back with his sons too, to help him, and they start doing it again. This is the second day, nothing has happened to Al-Walid, he's fine. The Quraysh realized this, they said, okay, it seems safe, and they all start to help doing that as well. And that's how all of the Quraysh now started to bring down this weak construction of the Kaaba. So finally, they break it all down. Now, they need to dig the earth for the foundation. They want to rebuild the foundation as well, to make the foundation strong. So they dig, and they dig, and they dig, and they dig. They dig very deep until they see some green stones, a number of green colored stones. And it is said that these green stones, this is the foundation of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That is the foundation where Ibrahim alayhi salam started his construction of the Kaaba. So they dig all the way to these green stones. They say, okay, let's dig even deeper than the green stones. So we'll make the foundation even stronger. We'll go even more deep than those green stones. One of the people who was digging, he has an axe, and he puts his axe under one of those green stones, and then he propels it up, to get the stone out so they can continue digging. So once he does this, once he puts his axe under that green stone and pulls it up, a blinding light comes out, a light that is so bright that it almost blinded him. So he's taken aback with the brightness of this light, and he drops his axe, and the stone, it falls back into its place. Some of the narrations of some of the historians also mention that when he actually moved that stone with his axe, the whole Mecca, it shook. So when they realized this, when they saw this happening, they said, okay, just leave it. We're not going to dig deeper than this. Let us leave it at this foundation. So they kept the same foundation on those green stones, and they started to rebuild the Kaaba. Like we mentioned, the amount of money they had was not enough for them to make the Kaaba on the same surface area as it was. And how was the Kaaba before? The Kaaba was 4 sides. It is still 4 sides. At that time it was 4 sides. 3 sides had straight walls. Now, if you see the Kaaba today, all 4 sides have straight walls. It's like a cube shape. But at that time, 3 sides had straight walls. But 1 side had a curved wall. But it was all one building. So they realized that they're not going to be able to do that. So they made a cube with 3 of the walls on the same area. But then they cut off the last wall that was a circular wall, and they actually closed it off and made it into a straight wall. And the area that originally was encompassed by the curved wall, they put they put like an arch, like a semicircle there, so that you know that this originally was part of the Kaaba. This was actually the fourth wall of the Kaaba around here. So they demarked that place to make sure that it was known that this was the original structure. And it is still like that today. When you go to the Kaaba today, you see that the Kaaba is a square structure, but on one side you see that semicircle, and that is called Hijr Ismail. And that is actually originally, that was part of the Kaaba. The whole building, the structure of the Kaaba actually encompassed that whole area. But because they didn't have the funds to complete that, the Kaaba is as you see it today. Another change that they made is regarding the door of the Kaaba. If you go to the Kaaba today, you will see that it has one door. Those days, it used to have two doors. One door on the side where you see it today, and one door on the opposite side. And the people used to go in through one door and go out through the other door. So they said, okay, we're not going to make the second door. We'll just make the first door. And another thing that they decided to do is to elevate that door. In those days, the door of the Kaaba was on the ground level. And the reason why they decided to do this was so that they could control who goes in the Kaaba. So these were some of the changes that they made. So once they finished the rebuilding, there was one last step that needed to be made. And that was placing al-Hajar al-Aswad, placing the black stone back into its corner, back into its place. This is a great honor. Who is going to do this? We have many sub-tribes of the Quraysh. Banu Abdiddar, Banu Makhzum, so many different tribes. Each one wants to have this honor for themselves. So they start fighting over it, like who's going to get this honor, who's going to do it. And it reached to such an extent where Banu Abdiddar, they took a jug of blood, and each one of them put their hands into the blood. And they said, we swear that we are going to be the ones who put that stone in its place. And when Banu Makhzum saw what Banu Abdiddar were doing, they said, okay, we can do that too. They got their own vessel of blood and they put their hands in the blood and they said, we swear it will be someone from us, from our tribe, who is going to put that stone where it is. So this is how much they regarded that being a great honor for them to put that stone in its place. So the fitna became very intense and they were ready to fight about it. And then one wise old man, and his name was Abu Umayyah ibn al-Mughira, he said, look, why don't we just appoint someone to do it? And everyone can agree who that person is going to be. We select one person and he'll go ahead and do it on behalf of all of us. And this was a wise old man, and out of respect for him, they said, okay, we will agree to your way of getting out of this dilemma. So then they thought to themselves, and they started speaking amongst themselves, okay, who should we select? Who should do it? So then they decided, okay, we agree that the first person who comes in through Bab Bani Shayba, he is the one who gets to do it. So they waited, looking at that gate, waiting for someone to come in. And finally, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam walks through that gate. And when he walks in, everyone is so happy. They say, As-Sadiqul Ameen, As-Sadiqul Ameen, Radina, Radina. The truthful one, the trustworthy one, the truthful one, the trustworthy one. We're happy with this, we're happy. Yes, he is the one who's going to do it. So everyone was happy because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had this reputation. Everybody loved him, everybody respected him, everybody honored him, and everyone knew how honorable and truthful and trustworthy he was. So they were very happy that he is the one who came through that gate. So he comes in and he takes a cloth and he puts the Hajar al-Aswad on that cloth. And then he tells the leaders of these different sub-tribes of the Quraysh, someone from Banu Makhzum, someone from Banu Abdiddar, all of them, you hold a piece of that cloth where the stone is in the middle. So each one of them, they hold around that cloth and they walk towards the corner of the Kaaba where the stone is supposed to be placed. So all of them are participating here. Nobody is left out. And then when they get near the corner, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his blessed hand, he takes the stone and puts it in its place. This again shows the wisdom and the intelligence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he diffused such a situation and made everyone happy. So this is the story of the reconstruction of the Kaaba that happened 5 years before the first revelation came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this was when he was about 35 years old.